I went to meet David Brown from the National Trust, who is overseeing a project where they are introducing pigs into a heathland environment.
We're in the heart of what is one of the most biodiverse bits of the whole of the UK here already. But what's been happening over recent decades is that different landowners have been slowly working to kind of connect up their sites, connect up small individual isolated nature reserves and create one joined up landscape for nature. So we've got the Purbeck Heaths National Nature Reserve, which was declared the country's first supranational nature reserve 3 years ago. It's 3,500 hectares, 7 landowners, all basically with their land and under one vision for recovering nature. Within that bigger landscape, there's a kind of core area, which is where we're sitting right now today, which is about sort of 1,400 hectares. That's 1,400 football pitches, if you like. Land belonging to the National Trust, RSPB, Natural England, and we've taken down all the internal fences between our lands. We've put cattle grids on the roads, and we've created this one large grazing unit, a wild grazing unit. And what that's all about is really understanding that in a natural environment, in a wild environment, sort of pre-human, large herbivores would have been really what shaped our landscape, what would have been shaped the habitats, would have been shaped what it looked like, and what would have shaped the other species that would have lived here, because you'd have had huge kind of everything from mammoths to aurochs to tarpan to these big animals that would go around knocking trees down, eating some vegetation, grazing some areas to tight grasslands, turning over the soil, creating a whole kind of complex, messy landscape that species would have evolved in and absolutely thrived in. And since those, and also that most of those animals are now extinct, we don't have that. And what conservation management has been about for many years is trying to, in many ways, replicate what those animals would have done. So our ranger teams will go out cutting down gorse to, stop it all becoming scrub, or we'll go out, putting animals into to graze areas of grassland and so on. And what we're doing here is we're really trying to restore some of those natural wild processes that create a complex, diverse landscape. And because those original animals are mostly unavailable to us because they're either extinct or just we can't practically reintroduce them, we're using our domestic herbivores, so cattle, ponies, pigs, along with deer that are already in the landscape, to kind of mimic the role of their wild ancestors. And they're doing a fantastic job. We've got a really nature-rich landscape now. There's birds all over the place, there's fantastic insect life, there's reptiles, there's everything's here, and it's really driving that of these big herbivores. One of the really novel things we're doing here has been bringing back pigs. So cattle and ponies are, we've had those grazing in one site or another since the 1990s. We're sort of managing them slightly differently now in a bit more of a hands-off way, which is great. But the real game changer, if you like, as from last year, has been the introduction of pigs. Very little used as a conservation tool, but you watch them grazing and you can see just quite how important they are, because they do something very different from any of our other grazing animals, in that they turn the soil over as they go rooting around under the soil for either earthworms or tubers or whatever it might be. And that may sound very destructive, and if they were doing it, if you had too many, it would be, but in small numbers they're creating these little bits of disturbance that actually nature really, really thrives on. So one of our sort of suites of species that are most rare and threatened here are invertebrates that specialise in open bare ground. There's actually I'm just looking here, there's little burrows in the ground for mining bees that go in, solitary bees that go in and make their nests underground. But if all the ground is covered in vegetation, there's no niche for those species to be there. And so pigs that go around turning over bare ground create fantastic habitat for invertebrates, but also for annual plants that expose the seed bank so seeds can germinate. They really, really bring areas to life, and this is a learning experience for us. We're doing a lot of monitoring. We're just looking at actually some proper academic research into the impact that pigs have on in a sensitive ecological environment like this. But just watching them as they go, turning over the soil, you can see they're creating good habitat as they go. It's brilliant. I mean, there are wild boar in the UK, and we could have gone down the route of trying to reintroduce wild boar, but that comes with difficulties as well, because if you've got nothing to control the numbers, and they can, that can itself cause an ecological impact, or they can start to become an issue in an area we have lots of public open access. But we're working with a local farmer. He specialises in high quality, local grown meat from conservation projects really. He's got his own herd of Mangalitsa pigs, and they behave very, very similar to my old boar. They eat the same things, they behave the same way. But by working with local farmers, we can control it a little bit more, particularly in the early days when we're trying to see how things go. But actually, we're supporting a local business. We're putting this stuff back into the local food market. So in many ways, this is not, we get off asking, is this rewilding? We don't call it rewilding, because actually what we're doing, we brought farming back into this landscape from where it had actually been abandoned, but we're doing it in a way that's absolutely about nature recovery. So all the cattle are managed by another local farmer. They enter the food chain. That's supporting another local business, as do the pigs, and it's about supporting a local economy through appropriate farming for this sort of landscape, this very infertile soils, and in a way that's going to really make it thrive for nature.
And what they're leaving behind is also beneficial for invertebrates and other.
So one of the key things here, we don't supplementary feed our animals, so we're not bringing any nutrients in. So what they're eating is the vegetation around us, and we know that actually ecologically that's really important, because how does species move from one bit of a landscape to another? Well, actually large animals are often what takes them there. So particularly you'll see where pig, if you care to analyse some pig dung, you'll see it's full of seeds, and actually they're helping those plant species spread from one part of the nature reserve to another, and you can see that where we've had grazing going on, as the pigs, as the cattle, as the ponies. So you can see areas that have been grazed become more species rich sort of in the 2-3 years after that, because they've both created the bare ground in which seeds can germinate, they've moved the seeds from one part of the reserve to another one, and they've done it all in a little pack of fertiliser so that the seeds can get going when they first germinate. So the fact that animals eat in one area and dung in another area is really critical.